Good day, lovely people. It is Monday, the 22nd of April, and this is Professor Matt, and welcome to the Too Many Guys Soccer Show Eastern Europe Review short. Uh, Being that the regular schedule on the podcast has been a bit helter-skelter as of lately, we haven't really had a chance to discuss the Eastern European leagues. So I'm going to do today, very briefly, is talk about the two leagues that are on the old Soviet spring through autumn calendar that have kicked off in the last month. So Kazakhstan and Belarus. Talk a little bit about the Croatian league and Hajduk Split bottling it. And talk about the title race and, the big match coming up in a couple weeks in Ukraine. So let's get this started. Kazakhstan. They are on match day 5. So their league began in early March. And it's early days so far, but Akobe has jumped ahead on 10 points currently. Uh, they've looked really good. They have the league's leading goal scorer, Maxim Shoromorodov, with 4 goals, who's a 21-year-old, which I have to say, I was vaguely aware of his existence because he did get a call up for the Kazakh national team during the European qualifying playoffs. So here's a guy who I was only vaguely aware of, who might be somebody to watch if you're going to be following that league this year. And then, right, tied in second on 8 points is Kirazar Ordabashi, so last year's champions, Tobo, and your professor and Professor Matt's Kairat. Uh, it seems to be a very top. It's very early goings, but the league tends to seem like it's going to be rather top heavy. There's 5, maybe 6 really good teams, and then the rest. So it could be interesting. Stay tuned to this channel for more updates, which there'll be more periodically during the course of the summer. Belarus, which is also on match day 5. Uh, I have no idea what's going on in this league. Uh, in first place on 13 points is Slavia Maroz, who I'll keep it real. Outside of the goalkeeper, who briefly played in Poland, uh, I don't know anyone on this team. They do have the league's leading goal scorer in Pavel Chekida with 5 goals in 5 matches, which is a good return. However, unlike Maxim Shormordov, who, 21 years old, got, a call up to the senior men's national team. This guy's a 28-year-old journeyman. He's pretty much played everywhere in the post-Soviet space, including a really brief, cup of coffee with Sheriff Tiraspol. But yeah, I don't know anything about this guy. Uh, Sort of similar. Top of the table's kind of tight. In second place is Neyman, who finished last season strong. So this isn't totally a surprise. In third place on 11 points is London Sean's Dynamo Brest, who I don't know if this is the residual Maradona effect, right? Because Dynamo Brest was the Belarusian club where Maradona was technically the sporting director. What that entailed seemed to simply be driving around Brest in a Hummer, uh, and that's about it. But the, that team was able to recruit a lot of young second tier Latin American players, and they won the league that season. It should be noted. They they looking at this squad, it's sort of the same thing. It's a lot of local talent, but also a lot of these second tier Latin Americans. And so they could be a team to watch. And then in fourth place on 10 points is Torpedo Giordano, uh, who literally just came up, freshly, promoted. Last year's champion Dynamo Minsk, they really haven't hit first year yet. they're smack middle of the table, and it's clear that they're missing their big striker Morozov, who I said I think towards the end of the season last year, a guy who's worth looking out for. And indeed, he signed a contract to play in Portugal. So he's playing in the the first Portuguese league at the moment. And you can see they're kind of missing their cutting edge because other than Morozov, they're effectively returning the same team. So again, more updates on what's going on in Belarus as the summer progresses. Now I want to talk about two leagues that are wrapping up. Earlier in this season, I mentioned, I wanted to introduce the Croatian league to our sort of, rotation, if you will. And a lot of that was because I was told on good authority that, Dinamo Zagreb's monopoly over what is effectively a farmers league, it's Balkan Farmers League, uh, was going to be broken finally after, 10 seasons. And it was going to be broken supposedly by Hajduk Split. And look, they were outstanding the first two-thirds of the campaign. Over the winter break, they added some old heads, you know, Nikolai Kalinic is there. Perisic, Ivan Perisic is there. And the reason they came back was to go back to, their parent club and, win Hajduk's first title in almost 2 decades. I don't know whether it was the insertion of these older players. I don't know what, maybe it's a mentality issue. But they bottled it. There are 4 match days left, and currently they sit squarely in third place on 58 points. And there's a chance, because the coefficient, that they may not see European football. Hajduk Split are officially South Slav Spurs or Dortmund, right? Uh, I still can't understand how they screwed this up and screwed this up so bad. Now, I think I had mentioned going into the winter break on the pod that I was a little worried though, because you had Rijeka and then you had Dinamo Zagreb in third place, and they were a distant third. I think it was a 9 point gap, but they weren't truly buried. And see, the thing is, when you have a team that's been there, done that, you need to bury them. You have to be like Liverpool in 2019, 2020, and take a lead on Man City to the point that by February the conversation's over. Hajduk did not do that. And so at the moment you have Rijeka and Dinamo Zagreb tied in first on 69 points. Technically Rijeka is ahead of them on goal difference. Uh, there's 4 match days left. And so we have a legitimate title race here. And so anyone who's interested, tune in. And it's also worth tuning in to check out where's Hajduk Split going to finish? Because right, at the winter break, I said I thought they were the favorites. Uh, they may not make European football, which would be a, an epic bottle job, especially when they went and supposedly improved or got better, added to the squad during the winter break. And then finally, before we get out of here today, got to talk about Ukraine. And right, they are back from the winter break. The snow, it has mostly melted. And right, football's back. And a lot of the, matches that were postponed, I think all of them at this point have been made up. And so, right, we have 4 match days left, and we have a bona fide title race. And earlier in the season when Kiribati was in first place, and they were in first place for a long time. But like I said, this was artificial. The big boys, they hadn't played the full complement of matches. Uh, Usual suspects, guys. Shakhtar and my Dynamo Kiev. Uh, with 4 points between them, and more about this in a second, a head-to-head probably title decider coming up in a couple Saturdays. So, as of recording this, this is literally less than a half hour after the last match day ended, with Shakhtar coming from behind against Zoroya Luhansk 2-1. Uh, Zoroya went up from a goal from actually former Dynamo man Dennis Antiyuk, scored right, after halftime. And but Shakhtar, as they always do, fought back goals from the young Brazilian Uguinaldo and Danilo Sincan, the young striker who remember that name because look, Jovic is the nailed on number one for Ukraine. I think we'd all agree Yaremchuk is number two. If the Ukrainian national squad brings a third out and out striker to the Euros this summer, Sikan is definitely one to mention. And Anthony also has an outside shot of making the team because outside of Mudryk, only Jesus there really is they really don't have an out and out left winger. They have right wingers or forwards who can play out left, but they don't have an out and out left sided forward. So two names to watch out for. Uh but anyway, yeah, the title race. So there's four spots in the Ukrainian league that gets European football. The two top get Champions League, three and four get Europa League, and then I think fourth is technically Europa League playoff. Then that team goes out to the Conference League. The table looks like this. With all but four matches played, you have Shakhtar in first on 58 points. You have Dynamo Kiev in second at 54 points, but with a better goal difference, and that could come into play. Kiribati that it's kind of evened out in third at 51 and comfortably in third, I should say. Uh, and good on them. I mean, for a team that literally just came up last year to finish third in any league is an achievement. And then Dnipro in fourth on 45 points. Dnipro is going to have a say in this title race one way or another because both Dynamo Kiev and Shakhtar have to play them in their last remaining four matches. And so, those matches are going to be pretty big. But the big one, and potentially the title decider, right? Because if things stay the way they are now, look, this match it may mean everything, it may mean nothing, right? Because there's a 4 point gap. But on Saturday, the 11th of May at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So remember, the Ukrainian League is available on YouTube for free. No English language commentary, but bilingual Ukrainian and Russian, right? Because despite what Vladimir Putin will tell you, Ukrainians don't hate their Russian speakers. Uh, Shakhtar versus Dynamo from, I believe the match is going to be in Lviv, right? Because that is technically the stadia that Shakhtar has been using since the war's broken out. It's going to be fascinating. And right, if Shakhtar wins, it's donezo. They have won the title. If Dynamo win because they have the better goal difference, the last two match days become awfully interesting. Awfully interesting. Relegation. So you have the bottom two teams are relegated flat out, and then the next two enter a relegation promotion playoff with the third and fourth place teams from the Pashaya Liga. Uh in the out and out relegation spots are Metalist on 19 points and Miani on 15. And Miani's pretty much relegated at this point, but you never know. Then in the playoff spots, you have Veris Ravine at 20, and they were in, I think, the Conference League a couple years ago, so they've taken a hit. And Obolon Kiev with 21 points, only 3 points behind Alexandria for the last, nailed on spot of safety. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The fact that we've actually had Kiev derbies this season has been cool. I mean, I wish there were fans there to enjoy it, but wartime settings. Uh, and right, I have a soft spot in my heart for Obolon Kiev because, right, they're owned by a freaking brewery and a really cool brewery. So we want safety for beer. So let's hope that Obalon can, at the very least, hold on to one of those relegation promotion playoff spots. Because I gotta be honest, I think the two teams that get the playoff spots are going to be safe. I don't see the third or fourth best teams in the Pashaya Liga seriously matching a challenge. But you never know. And then, last but not least, before we wrap it up here, because we didn't record last week. I think Stead recorded a short that sort of covered the last set of Champions League matches. Can we just shout out Andre Lunyon? And I don't want to seem like an asshole and be like, I told you so. But what have I been saying for the last 3 years on this podcast? Andre Lunyon needs to be the Ukrainian national team's number one. It's that simple. He's the most talented Ukrainian goalkeeper of this generation, of this epoch. Uh, and right, the only reason he was behind the likes of Buchan, uh, who at best should be the number third. I wouldn't. I'll be honest. I'd be hesitant to even take him to the Euros this summer. And Trubin's been good. He is good, but Lunyon's more talented is because he's been the number two to arguably, I don't know, 1A, 1B, 1C, the best goalkeeper in the world, and Courtois. Uh, Obviously, Courtois is injured. And look, he was great in that penalty shootout, and he's been great all year. I know he had a rather bad brain fart in the Classico, but as it turned out, it didn't matter. Uh, he should be the nailed on starting goalkeeper for the Ukrainian national team, not just, this summer, but moving forward. He's 25 years old. He's entering the peak of his career, especially as a goalkeeper. I believe you enter your peak in the second half of your 20s, even dare I say your late 20s. And look, I've said before, any player, particularly a goalkeeper, who frickin' starts, who breaks into a starting 11, at the age of 17. I don't care what league it is. Yeah, it was Zoroya Luhansk in the Ukrainian league. 17, he was the starting goalkeeper. And at 18, he was the best goalkeeper in the league. You're doing something right. You have talent. So big ups to men like Lunyon, and long may it continue. Anyway, friends, I'll probably record one more Eastern European update before the season ends in Croatia and Ukraine, or the week after those seasons end, and we'll be catching up with Kazakhstan and Belarus as the summer goes on. Anyway, gang, this is Professor Matt, and you have been listening to the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. Uh, Keep it real. Hope all is well. And like I tell my students, do well, avoid evil. Peace.